Kia ora tātou, Morena. Thank you for coming today to join with family. A time to say farewell to Janet, but I hope too, a time to gather up the memories together. I'm Kevin Nelson. As a celebrant, I join here today. I appreciate that just not even a month ago, you joined here to say farewell to Janet's beloved Bruce. With whānau here today, I know it's a very difficult time, and our hearts go out to you too. Such a short space. Brian Ross, the celebrant at the time, is in Australia, but I'm certainly here to join and help with family, join with each of you. Just a gentle reminder as we start our service, but if you are carrying a cell phone, could I ask you perhaps to check it's either on silent? I know how easily overlooked that can be, and thank you for that. It's appropriate today that Bruce's ashes rest here with Janet. And I think today too, for all of you here, you bring to the whānau here a sympathy, a presence here, and love. We're once again called to say goodbye. Mentioned as a dearly loved wife of the late Bruce, of course, but you here as whānau. And I say this especially. Melissa, we sat with you, with Cameron, with Jamie, and indeed with Marion, his sister, to just talk about Janet's life, to recall and those memories together. I hope today we can do that too. It's a time where, as you'll see on the service sheet, there is an opportunity to come forward and share a thought or two. Now, I appreciate when we gather in these circumstances, we feel we haven't prepared something, but it's not that so much. A little memory, story, and anecdote, I know that would be appreciated at these times. To those who've travelled distance to be here, but also to those perhaps can't be here today, I know we think of them through distance or circumstance. I'm sure they'll be thinking too of not just of Janet, but you as whānau as well. As family, of course, you're sharing the loss of one who's been such a very special part of life. But today, there's one thing we can't take away, of course, and that's that love that's been shared in the past. That's safe and secure. It can't be altered by time or circumstance. I appreciate too, we come with mixed feelings at times such as this. Janet's diagnosis, not so long ago really. The sadness of parting, but we recognise that she's at peace. But perhaps today, if we can celebrate the journey and the memory, if we can share a smile along the way at some of those thoughts, however hard that may be, that's not inappropriate either. But having said that, that word celebrate doesn't come easily to our lips at times like this. I appreciate that. I say this to you as family in particular. There's another natural emotion we must share. We define it as grief, the sense of loss. But I want you to remember, we can't separate that from aroha, from love. Those two emotions, of course, are totally intertwined. So when you do feel that sense of loss today, recognise the depth of that loss is really the depth of that love that you feel. And again, you as family, there is some lines that I share which were written by Howard Thurman in his Meditations from the Heart. And I hope they express to you as family the thoughts of all who gather here around you. That we share with you the feelings of your loss, that those feelings of your heart find echoes in our own. And while we know we cannot enter all you feel, we can but offer what our love does give, and that's that strength of caring. And this we do in quiet ways, and on your path you may not walk alone. Not today, obviously here and beyond, you won't walk alone. You know, we were reflecting back on Janet's journey, and I'll share in some of those thoughts initially in a moment, but one of the things about that was the reflections I think that came to mind. When we were talking about other ways of expressing our thoughts, you'll see that there is a heading Mother on our service sheet today, and it's in the service sheet itself. And when that was chosen, I thought how appropriate it was that you could share that really as a family too today. We will miss you so much, this lady, who lies peaceful now and still. She showed us how to deal with life, as well as kindness, depth of will. She showed us courage and compassion. We cannot forget her special face. She did so much around our place. She is impossible to replace. For she was the centre of our home. We thank her for her love and care. There never was another. She was the strength behind us all. But of all else, she was a mother. Now I'll add to that, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, friend of those here today. It's those important things I think that we can reflect. Marion, I think really it was you we leant on in the early parts of Janet's life, really, because they're the recollections you have before the children here today. And so just talking back about that, not too far away from here, life doesn't seem to have moved very far, to be honest, from this Tawa area, from all those years. Raised in what was Tawa Flat, of course, in those times, with two sisters, Marion and Margaret, in Oxford Street, along the way here. And I think that's where shaping life at Tawa School, and then actually as a foundation pupil at Tawa College. And I remember myself living not too far away from here when Tawa College was first opened at that time. So quite proud of the fact to be a foundation pupil of a school. How many of you here went to Tawa College? Quite a few? I suppose there would be. Some going back to foundation days, or you don't want to admit that, do you? It's a time ago. My brother was actually in the second year at Tawa College, not the first year. So then on to Teachers College. So that calling to be a teacher in those early days, as a young girl, really, primary school teacher, going to training college, but we're growing up in an era some of us here will be well remembering in those days. Flower power, happy time, the music of the time, the folk music, all the rest of it. For teachers, it was probably singing Kumbaya, of course, around about those days. And then going to Teachers College and qualifying to be a teacher. Marion, we did talk about this, that in those days, when a primary teacher, indeed a secondary teacher really, finished their qualifications, their first role was to be sent to a country school for that first year. They had to gain experience in a country school. Well, that didn't go too far away. That was Te Tahi Bay. And so it was there that first experience of teaching would be, and then on to Redwood School after that time as well. Still at home in those days, and of course being at Teachers Training College, Marion, you said you were sharing a room at home, and one of the things that had to be taught or learned from as teachers in those days was to learn an instrument. And so it was, I think, that Janet decided to buy a guitar and to teach me to play a guitar book. But you kind of purloined that, Marion, and you were caught out in the room, playing the guitar. And so I think Janet gave up on it and said, "You may as well do it instead." So, don't still play though? Yes, that's the way. And so it was then that fate took a hand as well, and those were the trendy days, and one of the most trendy places that some of us here, I can see some age group, will probably remember, and that's the Shapery in Wellington, where some of us did hang out from time to time in those times. Fate was to take a hand because Bruce was also there at the Shapery as well. I think, did he say that was, he quoted that to Janet, the first opening line was, "Hello, Princess," or something equivalent. A little princess, was that it? Hello, Princess. Yeah, and I think, what did your mum say, Cameron? Told him to sit down and be quiet. Sit and be quiet, yeah, I thought that was the case. And of course the rest is history. And so it was then that they courted. Anyone use that word courting anymore? But that's what they did, I guess. Married in 1967 on the 17th of August, not long from here, too far at what was then the Methodist Church in Tawa. Marion, you were a bridesmaid at that time? You're only 15, or were you a flower girl? One of those things. Oh, you were a bridesmaid, of course you were. You're a bit old to be. Is there a flower girl here as well? Who's the flower girl? Really? Is that right? Oh, that was... Who was the flower girl? Oh, you were? Oh, and a page boy as well. I should be going back in memories at the moment then, will you? How old were you at the time? Or should I not ask? How were you when you were a page, when you were a girl, a little girl? 8 or so? Oh, okay. 8 as well. Not that long ago. You're synchronised. I know. That's the one. So I asked initially, of course, setting up home, I think in Similar Crescent in Wellington to begin with, in a cold flat. But then at that stage, with Bruce being in the what was then Post and Telegraph, the old PABX, he was a technician as such, the old manual system of phones, PABX. And so that, as a consequence, with the post office at that time, or Post and Telegraph, involved transfers. I think that's when we talked of the moves quite quickly around the various places: Palmerston North, Hamilton, Kaikohe, Whangarei. Those are places, though, where along the way, Melissa, you then entered the family at that time. In Palmerston, I think. Was that right about then? In Hamilton, wasn't it? Hamilton. And although that was the start of what was thought to be just the only family, then comes Cameron, and then, of course, Jamie. So that gave me this feeling of really Janet's life growing up as a homemaker, a mother, over those years, and that's really what you're reflecting in your thoughts today, I'm sure. And so it was with all those moves. There was a house built in Palmerston North, but then the moves back eventually here to Grenada, and finally, of course, to where we sat and talked in Kiwi Crescent. But there might be those of you here who go back a little further in terms of the working life. Janet was certainly busy once children got old enough to work again all through those years. The Tawa main, or the Lotto shop in Tawa, and the mall, the one on the main road, Janie's at that time as well, Ideal Electrical. But particularly in the later years, working in BNZ in Wellington, in the investment area of the BNZ until retirement. But those are just working life times, but there's the whole focus on whānau here that's the most important thing. And that's what I felt was coming through to me in all the memories I shared, and ones I hope today some of you here can share as also. But in that retirement, certainly that opportunity to take that big OE, as they did, to be able to travel all around. Marion, you took part of that journey as far as Italy, I think, and the big OE. Yeah. Some others here today. At the wedding, yes, of course, at that time. And he's watching. Oh, is he? Oh, right, with the camera then, really. Oh, well, that's nice to know that you'd be watching from afar. Who was that, sorry? That's Julian. Hello, Julian. I appreciate there are those that may be watching, so it's nice to know that your thoughts are here with us today as well at these times. So that would bring back memories, of course, of all the times around Europe, London, Ireland, driving around there to Canada, Seattle, the Alaskan cruise. And yet, one of the things that struck me, and I've no doubt that was mentioned at the time when Bruce's farewell here was held, now that's determination that he had a leg amputation 6 weeks, I think, before that great OE, and was still able to make that. Now, I cannot believe that somebody would have that amputation that quickly. My mother had an amputated leg. I can't believe she'd been 6 weeks later going on a trip around the world. And yet he was determined to do that. And that took that extra help along the way. Tough, I'll say. And it's important to remember that, because that would be the support that Janet gave along the way too. So today, here in the memories you have, I know that we talked of Janet's personality, her love to talk, and the groups of people and friendships that she had. And also, of course, a battler. Battler towards these later times, how difficult for you as whānau, as family. Just a month, and here we are today. As I said at the outset, I know for everybody here, this is a time where I know it's difficult in many ways, but our hearts certainly go out to you, and I hope in the love and memory that we'll be here to help. But there are family memories. I'm going to ask those to come forward first, and after that, I'd like to think that some of you could share a little thought along the way, some that perhaps have thought as we're talking. So for those who have family who would like to come forward, please do.
Hello. My name's Lisa. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the oldest granddaughter. I like to say the favourite, but we all knew who the whose grandma's favourite was. Samantha. Grandma Jan was the loved and adored wife of Bruce, Granddad, and the daughter to Gigi, great-grandma Eric, great-granddad to Eric, and Gigi Olive, an extremely loved sister to Margaret and Marion. Grandma was always happy to see anyone that walked through the door, whether it was good or bad. She loved hard always. Throughout the years, Grandma's always been there for a chit-chat and a deeper meaningful, and always giving advice and sharing her knowledge with everyone, all her grandchildren, friends and whānau. If you haven't heard the story of how Grandma got her 3 angels, Melissa, Jay and Cameron, here's a little recap. We believe it all started after Grandma and Granddad decided they wanted to start a wee whānau, but they had a wee bit of trouble, so off to the doctors they went, but to their disbelief they were told it wasn't meant to be. Their next journey following this was adoption, and they got their whānau started with Mum, Melissa. She did tell me to say beautiful baby girl, but I'll leave that. Not long after came Uncle Cameron and Uncle Jamie, who Grandma adored and loved so much. Their beautiful whānau was complete, with Grandma being the pillar to hold the 3 troublemakers up, and Granddad being the glue that held them together / kicked their small behinds. Grandma and Granddad were in awe and enjoyed their time with their babies, who grew in no time and definitely behaved all of the time. Fast track to 15 years later, Grandma and Granddad were blessed with their first grandchild, Samuel. And from there, the grandchildren didn't stop for a bit. There's 9 of us, including Sam, me, Ashley, Nicholas, Caleb, Kian, TJ, Petty Ann, Alex, and then Grandma was blessed with grandchildren. We had a little rugby team. Danielle, Kaylee, Maya, Tainui, Ivana, Jayden, Hayley, Jackson, and lastly, little Miss Mackenzie. We were all grateful to have such special memories and moments to cherish with you, Grandma. One of my memories off the top of my head was popping into Grandma and Granddad's a few years ago for a quick visit. Popping in on that visit, I walked up the ramp to Granddad. He had just finished kicking Sam out with his walking stick and saying, "Oh, I will clip that bugger if he comes back down here tonight." I giggled and walked inside, Grandma just having the biggest, cheekiest smile, thinking, yes, Granddad handled that one. I thought in my head, yes, Sam's in trouble, so I'll just take over the fave role tonight. Through all the dramas we had when we were younger, she never judged any one of us. She would tell us off, but was always advise us and give us the next steps. She truly was amazing, and I'm glad I got to be by your side these last few weeks, Grandma. I enjoyed the yarns and being told how to do everything your way. It taught me that there's always ways to learn and another lesson to be taught. I love you, Grandma. You were such a special, beautiful woman. You may have run away to be with Granddad, but the memories will always be with us. Go and love Grandma. Tell Granddad we love him and we will miss you both, and that happy that you are together at last. Love you, see you, because it will never be goodbye.
I will try. You know me. Everyone said just about everything that I'm also going to say, but I would like to, first of all, point you to the bottom left-hand corner on the back of the sheet. That horrible photo of the three of us. We became known as the blister pack. I'm the last one standing. The lonely blister. Right. Okay. I have gone through Jen. I've written something on a very similar lines to the girls. Forgive the double ups. Who was Jan? She was loving and caring and very patient sometimes. She was my teacher, my protector, my sounding board, my protagonist. In other words, the first person I went to if I had a problem to sort out in my own head. She and Bruce patiently took a lonely, awkward 13-year-old and introduced her to the folk music scene. Friday nights at the Chez Paris, parties at Bruce's flat in Roxburgh Street. A lovely group of people who all took me under their wing as a little sister. Some, even to this day, a friend. I was sadly, deliberately on Jan's part, missing some occasion that Jan spent being serenaded by the Clancy brothers until the small hours of the morning after their concert in Wellington. Never forgotten by her, or me. Fans of the Clancy brothers forever. She loved Liam Clancy. Sorry, Bruce. Jan had an amazing memory. She could remember things she had seen and heard from our very early years to yesterday. She could remember the names of all the people she had gone to school with, and probably all of their siblings and children as well, if she wanted. She knew the names of all the children of friends and family and their birthdays. She was a walking genealogist, all stored in her head. And I'd like to point out that, she even encouraged her best friend from school to marry into the family. Hey, that's the way she was. Okay. We love to argue over whether she was right or not. She usually was, but not always. Jan was a storyteller and loved to pass on her memories to the kids and the grandkids, but will be sorely missed. Most importantly, she loved everyone regardless of their peculiarities or faults. Everyone she touched was important to her, and she cared for them. If you came into her sphere of existence, you were there for life. I will miss not being able to call her when I'm upset and need someone to talk to, our sometimes heated discussions, her sound advice, her not being able to be a physical part of my life, and on behalf of her whānau, who I know will miss her loving attention. Sometimes the sun does go out.
For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Danielle, the first and favourite great-grandchild. I'd just like to share a few memories on behalf of myself and Hayley. Grandma, you would always make sure there were a pack of ice box in the freezer, especially for me and Hayley when we'd visit. Me and Hayley would always make sure to stop in on the weekends on our way to the park to see how Grandma was doing. Grandma always hated swearing and would tell anyone off that swore, especially my mum Lisa. Grandma, there are many things I'll miss, but most of all, I'll miss your love and cuddles. I hope you are at peace now with Granddad. You will both be in my heart forever.
I think it's very easy to understand the depth of the araha, the love there with the family. But there is the opportunity, as I've said. You may have thought of some little memory you have in your hearts too. So I'm going to stand aside for a moment, and if you could come forward, share a thought, you'd be very welcome to do so.
Kia ora koutou. My name's Sally Johnson. I was just thinking, Janet and I have been friends for 66 years. And through that time, as we've had our families, we've gone in different directions out of Wellington, but we've always kept in touch. I first met Janet when I was a 10-year-old at Tawa School. She'd been at school since she was 5, of course. I joined at Tawa when I was 10, when my family moved into one of the first houses built in Taylor Terrace. We clicked straight away, and we stayed friends ever since. After the Second World War, when all the men came back and they all started marrying and having families, it resulted in the baby boomers, huge generation, all in the same age group as Jan and I, sort of born in the late 40s. And that posed quite a problem for Tawa School, because we all hit school together and the schools weren't ready for us. They didn't have enough classrooms, they didn't have enough teachers, and after the war they still didn't have enough resources. But one of the things Tawa School did was to try and keep the classes at a reasonable size. One group of us our classroom became the Scout Hall in Oxford Street. Jan and I were lucky enough to be in that class. She loved it because her mum couldn't look out the window and see what mischief she was up to next door at the school. We loved it because we had our own private playground. We had the one teacher who unfortunately was on duty for every break, but he didn't seem to mind because he had a manageable sized class. And there was a play area there. We used the equipment how it shouldn't be used, had lots of accidents, but there was no OSH, so we survived. So that was a really great experience. We went to the school for assemblies and sports and swimming, but apart from that we stayed in our own play area at the Scout Hall and really enjoyed our last 2 years at primary school. And then lo and behold, when we were ready to go to college, they built Tawa College. So Jan and I were amongst the 150 foundation pupils, and that was another thrill, because a brand new school, everything was brand new, it arrived in boxes, we as students all unpacked it. Jan and I and a couple of friends found out that there was a spot going in the book room, and we nabbed it, the 4 of us, which was Janet, me, Anne Curl and Susan Emerson. Now the book room wasn't the library, it was the place where all the textbooks arrived. So we unpacked textbooks and stamped them up. They had a stamp in the front where you could put the year, the student's name and their class, and we issued all the textbooks. It was a huge job, but we got cracking and got organised, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. Once the books were issued, it was the stationery room where students could come and buy stationery. But the best part was that while the prefects had a common room, us four in the book room had our own room, which we had lunch and we had break times, and we did have to do a lot of work in between, but most of the time one of us would serve at the counter and the other three would be sitting yakking or having lunch or snacks. So through college, that book room was our own private domain, and we really enjoyed that. Then when we left and all went to work, not long after, as 16-year-olds, one of Janet's cousins, Terry Johnson, had his 21st birthday. This is the 60s, parties were important, everyone went to everything. And so the Neal family were all invited to his party because Terry's father, Harry, was brother of Marion and Janet and Margaret's mum. So they all came to Terry's 21st, and Janet was asked, if you've got any mates that want to come to the party, bring them along. So myself and the Scott twins went to Terry's 21st, who we'd never met before, and Janet introduced me to his brother Brent, to her cousin Brent. Well, we clicked straight away and became a couple of 16-year-olds who thoroughly enjoyed the 60s, as everyone else did. All the parties, all the dine and dances, all the music, all the fashion, everything. We were having such a great time that we never actually got around to getting married until we were 21. But we did. I was Sally Johnson before I got married, and I married a Johnson, so I stayed Sally Johnson, although I wasn't related to him until then. We've just had our 55th wedding anniversary, so I'd like to thank you, Jan, for putting us together back then and recognising that we had what it took to have a long and happy marriage, as you did yourself. There's not a lot of other things I can think of importance, apart from when we were working. Jan and I used to meet up after work on a Friday night when it was late night shopping in Wellington. Don't know when that cancelled, but that used to be the big shopping night. And we used to go to the dress shops. They weren't called boutiques then, they were just dress shops. And we would try on cocktail frocks and evening frocks and see what we liked and what suited us. And then we'd say, we'll be back on payday to pick up what we've chose. We never went back. We went instead to the fabric shops. And we went through the Simplicity and the Buttrick pattern books until we found a pattern near enough to the dress we liked, and we made them ourselves. And Janet used to spend a lot of time at my house because my mum was a great sewer, and she would help us redesign the pattern that we'd bought to the what was in our head frock that we wanted. So that was all part of the 60s too. And why we needed ball gowns and cocktail frocks was because all the organisations like the Builders Federation and the plumbers and the electricians, a lot of the big businesses, Stock Exchange Association where I worked, they all had dine and dance evenings for staff and friends. And that was part of that 60s social whirl at the time. So we had to have nice frocks, and we didn't wear the same ones twice if we could help it, unless we were going to a different ball, because if you had a friend who was a plumber, he would get a whole table of his friends to go to the plumber's ball, and likewise for all those others. So we had lots and lots of those dine and dance experiences. So that was another thing Jan and I had in common, was that we both through our teams became really good sewers, which was quite helpful once you've got a family. So as I say, all those years we've been friends. We've not lived in the same town for most of that time, but we've always kept in touch. It was really nice when she came back to Tawa to live, because my parents were still in Taylor Terrace right through until more or less not long before they died. So I was always coming back to Tawa, and I'd always catch up with Janet at that time. So yes, a long friendship that was very important to both of us, a long marriage that I've got her to thank for, and I'll really miss her.
Melissa, Cameron, Jamie,
cat's out of the bag now. We were next door neighbours for 25 years or so. Ralph, Barrack, and the dog, and to cut their hedge, we lived in two different streets, although we're next door neighbours. They lived in 45, we lived in 2 Kiwi Place. And we had great memories. Jan and Bruce do anything for you, do anything. Bruce used to come into our place, go through the hatch into the top of the through the roof, fix our water leak we had. Bruce would just push himself up, get himself up, do anything, and just go home. And I remember Jan had an accident. She came into the next door neighbour, it's about that high, and she fell flat on her face. And I rushed into her house and got a pillow and put her head on the pillow. And I think she broke her ankle as far as I know. And she was okay. But a few steps there, I sold Bruce our car, and our dog knew the car motor coming from up Lyndhurst and right around Kiwi Place, and every time the car used to even be in the middle of Lyndhurst Road, he used to start barking and recognise the motor of the car belonging to us, but we had sold the car to Jan and Bruce. And of course, Ralph, I named him Ralph because he says Ralph. And our next door neighbour's name was Ralph, and Ralph was doing something dirty, and I said, bad Ralph, and he heard me. The next door neighbour, Ralph, and he said, what? I said, not talking to the dog. But I remember a friend of mine from the Boys Brigade down in Lena Place church there. I was going to the Boys Brigade band. It was dark. I drove the car and I came up Kiwi Place and over, and he was lying in the middle of the road, this boy, and he used to belong to the Boys Brigade as well. He was lying in the middle of the road. And I stopped and I said, what are you doing here? He said, I'm committing suicide. He said, my wife has thrown me out and that's it. I said, don't be stupid. I said, get in the car. So I took him back to our place and wondered what to do with him. So I went over to Jan and Bruce's place, and Jan took him in. She just took him in. I said, don't worry, she said, I'll just look after him. And I never saw him anymore. He must have gone home and apologised to his wife, whatever it was. But my wife is in care at the moment, and I said I was coming here. He said to remember Mel, to everybody, to the ones I know, and the first thing she remembered, oh, Melissa. Yeah, great memories, Melissa. Great memories, yeah. The next door neighbour's house caught fire. The opposite house. And he had put some of his embers, hot embers, he'd put them on the back wooden step and gone away, both of them. And it set fire to the step, it set fire to the wall, and it set fire to the house. Jamie, he was asleep in the house opposite. Never knew a thing about it. And Cameron was away, Jan and Bruce were away, and all of us were at work. And the house just about all but burnt down. And there was another incident. So I thought, well, I'll just tell you about some of these memories we have, and how dogs have left this earth, but they're still in Tukiwi Place.
Hi, none of you probably know me. You do. Jan came into my life in the 80s when I was working for David Fraser's, or PC Blencarn's David Fraser's, then eventually Ideal. The environment that we had at Fraser's was a family, wasn't it, Paul? You know, we were, not only were we part of each other's lives, but we were part of our families' lives. And Jan was a mother who initially wrangled 3 boys running electrical wholesalers. And then eventually what happened was me and 2 other guys that we were involved with set up a business, and Jan came in to wrangle that. I suppose it was a good practice for her later on, dealing with unruly boys, out of control, but there was always love there. There were always, you couldn't be involved in Jan's life without total immersion. If you were in her life, you were in her life. That's what I learned very, very quickly. And it says in Psalms, by your fruits you will be known. And I look here and I look at the fruits of Jan's lives, the people that she's impacted. And I look and I can see her eyes there and her smile there. And every time you think that you've lost her, simply turn around to the people in your family and she's there for you.
Well, to each of you who have shared those memories, I know they've helped so much today, and indeed many others I'm sure here too. For those of you as whānaus, for the friends here, with your personal thoughts, I appreciate that thoughts can sometimes lie too deep for words, but they're there in your hearts, I know. But there are other ways of remembering, so we'll take time to look back at some of these memories put together with love.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly. singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun. I say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright. Little darling, the smiles returning to the faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright. Sun, 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 here we come. 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 Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. But here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say it's alright. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It's alright. It's alright.
These photographs are a moment frozen in time, but I could almost sense their memories flooding back each time you looked at one of those. There'll be many more, I know, in the times ahead in your hearts. You'll see, perhaps not an appropriate thought on our service sheet today, what cancer cannot do. Cancer is so limited. It cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith. It cannot destroy peace. It cannot kill friendship. It cannot suppress memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot invade the soul. It cannot steal eternal life. It cannot conquer the spirit. And that spirit's not conquered. We part physically today, but that's the only way you'll be parting from Janet, just as it has been with Bruce in such a short time before. And those memories now come into each of the generations to follow. And they'll follow again after that and after that. Because all you know of Janet, as with Bruce, is not someone locked up inside her, so it dies with her. It was given out to each of you. And that continues on into the future. And that Eyre that you expressed today, that's the most beautiful of all the realities we know. It's the richest gift we have. We also have to accept, I think, of necessity, however hard it may be, that from today, gradually the weeks draw into months, the months draw into years. We get busy in our daily lives. Now those memories never leave our hearts. They can't do that. They're always there. But as we get busy in our work, the daily work, they can't always be at the forefront. But what happens along the way, as it will, you're going to be miles away, and suddenly something's going to bring back a time and a place. Memories flood back. You could be all on your own somewhere. And as they do smile, sunlight enters those memories more. But don't be surprised where in the future, along with those smiles, that the thoughts have passed. A little tear may well form again. That's a tear of remembrance. I describe that as a sunshine of the soul. I think it's there to remind you that there's never any total parting. Yes, it's hard today, but there's always that memory to sustain you into the future, that Eyre with that love. So when that tear comes along with that, cherish that thought. Cherish the tear as well as all the smiles that will come in affection and love. And you see on the service sheet too, on the rear, that you're invited to 45 Kiwi Crescent for some kai after this time here, and to reminisce. And I think that's the important thing, is to reminisce. And they will come back to you time after time. You'll also see that there is a memorial book in the foyer. It was brought in here after some of you had come into the chapel. So if you haven't signed that, please take time to do so before you leave. And above all, it's not just today you've come here, is it, to give love and support. It's that time ahead. When things are a little quiet, pick up that phone or pop by. I'm sure you'll do that, not just in Janet, but also in Bruce's memory in that time ahead. Also share in the thoughts that are on our service sheet today in the prayer that we were taught, the Lord's Prayer. And so we pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. Janet, you found a peace now, and in that sense I give you this blessing. Deep peace of the running waves to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the shades of night to you. Moon and stars, always giving light to you. But it is time to say goodbye here. We're grateful for Janet's life and all her life has meant. In its concluding words, I would ask you if you would now please all stand. Janet, the time came for you to join with your beloved Bruce. Your life we honour, your departure we must accept, but your memory we cherish. Rest now at the end of your days. Rest in the hearts and minds of all who've loved you. And since the life of Janet Erica Eyre has come to an end, tenderly we commit her body to be cremated, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But may you find comfort and richness in those memories. May you find support and strength in your love for one another, and may you find peace in your hearts. In thinking of Janet, depart from here in quietness of spirit. Depart in peace.
that e'er I spend it in good company, and all the harm that I ever did, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you. If I had money enough to spend, and leisure time to sit a while, there is a fair maid in this town that sorely has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks and ruby lips, I own she has my heart in thrall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you. Oh, all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you. Oh, all the money that e'er I spend it in good company, and all the harm that I ever did, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you. If I had money enough to spend, and leisure time to sit a while, there is a fair maid in this town that sorely has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks and ruby lips, I own she has my heart in thrall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you. Oh, all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls was unto my lot that I should rise and you should not. I'll gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be with